Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Georgia Stergiopoulos.
Hey,
To Not Your
dude.
Thoughts, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for this
Same.
one. This is good.
I feel like we've already chatted.
We have already chatted. They missed out on a bit, but we'll bring them in on it. We'll bring them in on it.
Bring 'em in.
The questions I've tailored are, I feel, about concepts that you and I both find very interesting, concepts that you're actually living your life through, and that's the tension between masculine and feminine energy and kind of how individuals can oscillate between the two.
Totally.
So you're someone who I feel like literally and symbolically you're a fighter and you go for, or you've just found yourself in kind of dominant or I want to say assertive positions in your career and just your lifestyle. So we'll dive into just who you are and how you kind of came to be, really.
Yeah, totally. It's funny, like when we first started talking about this, I really went into this deep dive of just like thinking about my lifestyle and, you know, like how I grew up. And it's really funny because I'm looking at, I've got two little nieces at the moment, and seeing two little young girls that they're like a year old. It's really funny because I'm starting to hear this like from my mum as a grandmother. She's looking at my oldest niece who's like 18 months old and she's just like, she's so defiant. She's so boisterous. And I'm just sitting there looking at her and then like, she reminds me of Georgia. Remind you of anyone? And that's like the most like, you know, fascinating thing to hear is that a child of like 18 months old has this personality trait.
True.
And like, where do they learn this from?
Yep.
And it's just kind of made me really think about like, maybe this has been the person that I've been always. And then just certain aspects of my life have like kind of just evolved and, you know, I've honed in on it or like, you know, grown with it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like from always, I was always kind of extroverted, boisterous, tomboy, real daddy's girl. Like I just wanted to be like in the shed and tinkering with cars and playing and all of that kind of stuff. And so like that was just, I didn't think anything of it, but that was just me growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I had like all of these external forces. Like God knows Mum tried to put me in a dress. Like that just wasn't even.
Just not happening.
And I was like, no, I want to wear tight bike shorts and an oversized T-shirt and I'm 6.
Yeah. And why not?
Why?
You know?
Don't dress me like my sister.
Yeah,
you
fair
know, don't
enough.
put me in the Peter Pan collar with the frilly socks. Like I just didn't want that growing up. Yeah. So I kind of feel like that's just it's in you.
So it is a nature
thing. I think it's a nature thing.
Yeah.
Definitely not the nurture. I think my mum really wanted me to be all of the little girly type things that I think any mum and their daughter probably as a stereotype want.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And that's, I guess, the thing is, what are these stereotypes? Why do they even, I guess I get why they exist or why they initially existed, but why the importance around the dress? Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
man.
why this kind of hang up on it essentially where, I guess it's interesting. But the thing is, in terms of, and I don't want to use the word combativeness because I feel like, would you consider yourself combative?
Oh, I think I've been called combative.
Okay, yeah. All right, no, that's cool. But that usually comes with, or I'm just making assumptions, an element of adversary that you needed to overcome. And that's kind of the assumption there as well. But then the flip side is, why do we need to pretend that that's the case and it's not just the way someone is? Like there are people, if I don't agree with something, I'll disagree with the thing I disagree with. Why is that need to be linked to like,
Totally.
you know, this challenging, even me, I naturally assume that, but I guess I'm trying to check my own biases out loud. Why do I assume you had to go through something to be someone who's able to say, no, I don't want to do that. I disagree with that. Let's have this confrontation, basically.
I think that's a real cultural thing too, though, like assimilating and wanting to fit in and be accepted by the people around you, right? So, you know, I think coming from a migrant family and a really conventional, traditional style family, it was like not children as to be seen and not heard kind of thing, or, you know, but very much respect your elders, don't talk back. My dad's favourite one was don't go against the grain, Georgia. Like, just go with it, you know?
Just make
just
it
do
easy
what
for
you're
me.
told. Just make, you know, and it was all of that sort of attitude. And I think But if I go with that's not who I am as a person.
Yeah, that's important. That's important.
You know, I don't want to follow the convention, not because I want to set a tone and be different and, you know, like it just didn't feel right.
But even in that, like even if there is an element of rebellion to it, that's what you need to do to feel like you're kind of taking control of your life against the authority of your life. So I don't see that either as a. I think the rebellion's fine, but if you live the rest of your life in a reactionary state, that's when you've gone too far, and now you're not in control of that either because you're responding as a reaction to the authority that was kind of pushing out. So it's just this fucking
massive to and fro.
Yeah.
And who wants to live in a life where you have no inner peace at any moment, right?
Or you don't know who you are.
Who you are, or what you want to be, or like, you know, what kind of progress you want to make. And I think it's just really, it's one of those things where you grow up and you grow through life and you see the things that are coming at you. And I think sometimes I think about like the boisterous and that real sort of maybe combative or the hunger and the drive, absolutely like growing up through that. And fighting for myself from such a young age. Yeah. Not because I had a bad child. I was loved.
Yeah, and you know? Exactly, yeah. But
I got enough hugs, right?
Sometimes too many hugs, though.
I got too many hugs.
Yeah, like
you know, but like I wanted something for myself, and I think I wasn't going to get that just by being coherent,
obedient.
Obedient.
Yeah. I feel that. I honestly feel that. And this kind of plays into this concept of this tension between masculine and feminine. Because the way I've heard, I think there's an evolutionary psychologist, David M. Buss. I read one of his books, and the way he explains it is, I think where I want to start here, before we dive into your career as a lead architect at a well-established firm and a Olympic level boxer. So before we dive into those questions, I think a good place is terminologies. You know what I mean? When I think of masculine and feminine, I'm not saying male, female. I'm saying these energies inside us. The way this psychologist explained it was masculine is kind of the almost driving force, the pushing force. And then when you're in a feminine state, it's more of a communal force, like a coming together force or a receptive to the world force. That. Yeah. I feel like that really rung true with me. I guess, do you agree with that? And how would you define the differences in energy?
I do like that. I think that's really, you know, not having a clinical psychology background, but like, you know, I think about, you know, the yin and the yang and the chaos and the order and, you know, putting those things together, I think that, you know, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I always thought that you could only ever really be one or the other. And, you know, when you look at the yin and the yang, there is some chaos in the order and there's some order in the chaos. And so having that masculine, you know, driving force absolutely makes so much sense. And in some ways, I wish I was more educated to that when I was my younger self.
Yeah.
Because I felt like growing up, I didn't feel like I fit in with the gender stereotype of being a girl per se.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't like that, the idea that I had to love pink and I had to love a dress and I wanted to play with Barbies. And honestly, all of my Barbies had their hair cut off and the word no written on their forehead. Like, oh yeah, like I just didn't
I love that.
I just didn't want that for my life.
Yeah. Is imposition a word, like imposing? Imposition?
Yeah.
Let's say it is.
Yeah, it is, I guess so. I felt like it was all the weight of wanting that for my life. As a little kid, I just was like growing up going, oh, I don't want that.
Yeah, but I don't want to, and I try catch myself, as I mentioned earlier, reacting too hard. I feel like I just want to be careful that the state of the world doesn't go too, because I do like borders to some degree. Like I'm not against the idea of having, I don't know. It's a balance because I don't want to. I'm going to trip up on my words, so
No,
forgive me, and
please.
I might change my mind mid sentence. So just a warning,
I'm here for
because the
this,
podcast
though.
is scary. You publish
I
it and it's there
know.
forever.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
but yeah, I do like gender norms, like as a structure, kind
Yep.
of, but I don't like you're not allowed to move from it. Like
Yeah.
I like society to kind of. I don't know where I'm going, but
The fluidity?
yeah, well, I
Or
like
just like the acceptance of who you are as a person and it doesn't need to assimilate.
well, I think
It's a real tricky
yeah,
one.
I think yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to figure out the balance between giving children guidance on their path, but not subjugating them to that box of guidance. And
no, I totally understand. Look, I think of in current today's society and the way that we're sort of like, you know, how do I interpret this the way that I think is appropriate? But, you know, where gender and, you know, how you are assigned at birth and the way that you relate. You know, I look at my childhood growing up and how much disdain I had for being a girl growing up.
Yeah, okay, yep.
That, you know, I think in this current day, would my evolution be a different story? This is a really like, you know, but then I also think about the fact that I grew up in a relatively supportive environment, that it was like, okay, mum wanted me to be like, put a dress on, and we used to argue about it all the time. Or mum really wanted me to do this and we used to argue about it all the time. But at the end of the day, my mum wanted me to be healthy, happy,
awesome,
educated. Educated was such a big one.
That's awesome.
Right?
That's huge, actually. Yeah.
And independent as a woman, right? And I feel like she gave me those tools and my family gave me those tools. And, you know, while I navigated my childhood about like, you know, fitting into a particular stereotype or not fitting in, as I grew up and I grew older, I had these fundamentals of, I guess, wanting to be smart, well-liked.
Yeah, well, having agency of your life as well.
Yeah,
and I think
control.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful that education was instilled, because that's the biggest part, I feel like, having knowledge, information that you can make changes in your life.
You know, it's wild to think, like my dad was born in Greece. My mum and her family migrated here. And I come from a family where only the women are tertiary educated.
Interesting.
And it wasn't until very recently, like my brother completed a tertiary degree.
Yeah, all right.
And it was because my mum's dad, my grandfather, was so headstrong about, he didn't get an education, my grandmother didn't get an education, and he was like, when my girls grow up, they're going to be educated.
Yeah.
My mum's tertiary educated. My auntie is a boss.
Yeah, awesome.
Strong woman,
Yeah, cool.
right? All of the women ended up becoming really educated and successful, career-minded women. It was incredible to think that. Totally different. And I know we've deviated, but like...
There's no deviation.
Yeah.
No, this is where we are.
You know, and I'm really glad that they... You know, she really pushed that for me, because I feel like it set the ground rules for how I conducted myself in every other way.
Yeah. No,
life.
I really appreciate you brought this up, because a thought just popped up as well. Is I feel like previously, and some women now, when they're not put on this education knowledge pathway, they end up in relationships where they're dependent on the male. And then it becomes they don't have agency over their finances. God forbid they end up in an abusive relationship, and now they can't leave because they can't actually, like, they don't have because I think every relationship is a negotiation. Not even intimate, just relationships are a negotiation.
Yeah.
And then poor women, if they don't, or if they haven't set themselves up to some degree before coming into the relationship in this new world, they don't have this kind of negotiation leverage, and they're kind of just... Women get clumped with children it's like women and children and then the husband. And it's kind of like that's the only leverage they have to negotiate. And then if they're not coming from an education background, they're just kind of bound to this life of just, you know, not having agency to kind of actually argue back or choose what they want to do in their life.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a real education is, I think, twofold as well. It's like formal and then also like the informal, where it's teaching women and teaching young girls and, you know, giving them the tools to understand that they are allowed to have boundaries and they're allowed to have a voice. And that doesn't necessarily come from a classroom, right? It comes from the people around you and, you know, having a network of strong women around you. I never thought that I would be that person that was like, yes, women.
No, I know
you
what
know,
you mean.
But I've become that person. I'm a yeah girl. Like, woo! I never thought I'd be that person, but I really want to see more women be stronger and be their best advocate. Yeah,
of course. I don't have I love the message. The only time I criticize it is if your only position is I'm a woman. Whereas as opposed to, hey, I'm strong, hey, I'm good, hey, I'm competent, and I'm a woman. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like it's I don't like leading with women.
Yeah, neither.
But, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're so much more than just the gender you were observed at. You know what I mean?
And I think that's why I was always like really worried about being such a like, you know, pro women. Because in all of the, you know, fields that I've kind of gone down, you know, and gone from boxing to a career in construction, I
cake
always
making.
Cake,
I didn't,
mate. That's it. Really lent into the woman thing there.
Like, how can I confuse everyone?
Let me just pop that on its head. My logo's pink, by the way. But, you know, I hated the idea that people looked at me first as being like, you're a woman and you know, this is your reason why. And it's like, no, I'm just like exploring how strong I can be as a woman, not about anything else.
Yeah, yeah. It's a weird balance as well, which we will dive into. But just kind of like a teaser for the conversation, it's hard as well when you walk into a room and someone does view you as a woman only first.
Yeah.
And then they've judged you as a woman. What's this woman doing here in this environment? So they've made you lead with women. So I can see why women are like, yeah, fuck you. I'm a woman in this place.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Do you know what's really amazing about that though is I feel like as I've gotten older, when I walk into a room and that's the first thing that they see, I'm like, oh, let me show you how. Yes, I'm a woman. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me show you how I'm going to run rings around you. Let me show you how I'm going to do this. And I just think, I'm going to eat you for breakfast.
Yeah, good, yes.
Back off.
Yeah, exactly.
You
and
know?
I'll prove it. You know
Let me prove it.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a bit of a shit thing, to be fair, that like I have to think like that in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a part of me that gets off on that too, to be fair. I'm like, yeah, you know what? And fierce. Come at me.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't want to always be defensive or on the defensive. But I think as a woman, we just have to be.
Yeah, yeah. Just by nature.
By nature.
Yeah, yeah. I can completely respect that.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the tango. That's the
Totally.
dance. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But yeah, I guess tell me about your architectural origins. How did you get into it, and why the interest in construction and architecture?
I loved Lego.
Okay. It fits actually.
I know, because you know I loved Lego. You know, Lego for me as a child was like, you know, mums take their Barbies away from their daughters. Mum was like, I'm taking away your Lego.
Yeah. Oh shit. So she knew, she hit you where it hurts.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I think I loved as a kid. I loved the idea of drawing, and I loved the idea of building Lego, and I loved the idea of doing all these things. And I was maybe 8, and you know, we were having must have been doing like a career day at primary school, or like, you know, bring your mum to work thing. My mum was a teacher, so she was already at work. But it was like, I just was always drawing houses, and Mum was like, "Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be, I wanted to do this." And she's like,
I want
"You
to
want
be
to
a
be an
house
architect?" I want to be a house drawer. And I was just like, "I want to be an architect," and she was just like, "Yeah, done." And from like a young age,
Wow.
like it's really interesting when I talk to people and they're like, "I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up." I'm like,
that's awesome.
"That's
Good
wild."
On you. Yeah.
And so I feel like I had this, tunnel vision and this one eye, focus from like before high school.
Yeah, awesome.
And that was just sort of one of those things. And I had this but I also had this really romantic idea about architecture. I feel like during the early 90s, I'm going to show my age.
Yeah,
But there were always these like movies. There were always movies and like the main characters were architects. I don't know if you remember the film Father of the Bride.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, thank you. No, okay, look, Steve Martin. Anyway, whatever.
Oh, Steve Martin.
Yes?
No,
oh my God.
Trying to keep it flowing.
I've done it. Anyway, there was like
but I'm not a movie person.
No, that's
why.
okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. But the main female character in that was an architect, and she was studying to be an architect, and she was, getting married and whatever. And then there were like 3 men and a baby, and one of the guys was an architect, and they used to just roll. Mrs. Doubtfire, she was an interior designer. Like all of these things. Anyway, they would roll around with their house plans, and they'd go to site and they'd pull them out. And I think it was just such this like really romantic idea about like what architects do.
Yeah. Well, there is a beauty to it. You're structuring the world we live in.
Absolutely.
You're literally like
there is a responsibility there.
It's huge, man.
Yeah.
And it's like the world we walk in, you're creating, or we're all contributing, but as an architect, creating the reality which we perceive on a daily. So it's a pretty grand job, actually.
Yeah.
And we haven't even mentioned that you've been lead architect on major developments as well. So to be in that position and to have the influence that you've put through, like, I think it's very commendable.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I appreciate that.
Awesome.
I think it was a bit of a rude shock though that when I got into the world of architecture, navigating that was not the romantic idea of what I thought it was going to be.
But that's also adulting.
Oh,
you
man,
know what I mean? Like, wait, I didn't sign up for fucking any of these.
I didn't sign up for this. I thought I was going to hand draw.
Where's the Legos?
Where's the Lego, damn it? Man, you hit that on the head.
Seriously, mate.
Honestly, more Lego. Bring more Lego.
I know we're laughing, but there's something really core and at the nexus of that where it's so nice that you found your calling early and you pursued it and you found your personality with it, where like architecture is such a perfect balance of you're dealing with the builder, you're dealing with this masculine aggression industry, but there is a beauty creative element in architecture as well. So it just captures you perfectly being an architecture. Seriously, it does. And it's, as you said, the personality, you knew yourself early, you knew what you liked early. And honestly, it's just really nice to see, genuinely. So
that we made it.
Yeah.
I know. It's the dance of like staying true to that.
Yeah.
And like the reasons, knowing a why.
Yeah.
Knowing your why is like, even you come back to this now. I come back to it so often, like, why do I do this?
Yeah.
What is the reason why? Because, when you are having your tussles with the builder and you are trying to like, make something beautiful.
Yeah.
And then, you're dealing with all of the pressures of time and money and all of the stuff. It's like, it's really hard to stay true to beautiful and then.
And functional.
Yeah. And then dealing with some guy who's
money.
like yelling at you about
you keep pointing at me every time.
about the detail that you drew, and it's like a real, it's definitely a fine line. But, I know what my why is and the reason why I do it. And that's kind of what keeps you there.
I think that's the beauty of any creative endeavor. And again, architecture's kind of nailed the perfect kind of oscillation between, creative and functional. But I had another thought. I'm going to say it, but I forgot this one.
It's okay.
It's okay. That's fine. We're cool. It's all right. But yeah, sorry. I think the beauty of a creative endeavor is you put something out there, and you've put it up for scrutiny and sometimes shame.
Oh, the
even
vulnerability.
the vulnerability,
Oh.
and the nature of creation. Kind of it just implicitly in the question of it is why. Why was this the thing that came to me?
Yeah.
Why was this the thing that I've produced, manifested into reality?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. So, and the other thing I want to ask was, what's your relationship with loneliness or aloneness? If you see a distinction there, like
life.
yeah, serious, yeah, because I feel like that's a part of that creative kind of ability. And knowing your why has to come with this lonely relationship with yourself.
Absolutely.
How's that?
Oh my
been
gosh,
for you?
that's
Yeah.
crazy that you actually like talk about that because, you know, I think even there are so many aspects of my life that I can like look at have been completely alone. Have people around you, have support networks, but you are completely on your own in that endeavor of what you're actually trying to do. You're doing the road miles. You're like literally doing your midnight, you know, CAD drawings or model makings, or, you know, you're doing all of those things. And I don't think I ever really spent much time in my, you know, late teens, early 20s, or even late 20s really unpacking what being alone actually felt like. And then it wasn't until sort of, you know, a real hallmark moment where I was like, I am alone. I'm on my own path right now. There are people around me, but they can't absolutely feel how I'm feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And having to sit with how uncomfortable that is.
Yeah.
And just literally sitting your own shit for a minute and just being like, I can't get out of it, but I'm here. Until the point that the uncomfortable becomes normal, and then you're okay.
Yeah, and
then you're alone, and it's still okay.
yeah, it is. And relationship or not, you're going to die alone. It's only you that dies when you die. I think coming to terms with like the reality of every death is a lonely death. Like I think this was like a snap from a Rick and Morty episode, but this guy's like, best case scenario, you die together. You know what I mean? Or like die in the same vicinity. Yeah, but like I think I think and to me my gratitude and my creative push comes from I guess my relationship with death as well. This kind of need to make before I cease consciousness. Do you know what I mean? So, and loneliness for me really put me into that mode of, when you are doing the CAD drawing or whatever it is, you're having conversations with yourself.
Yeah.
So you're kind of not alone, but you are, and it's okay, but sometimes it's not, and then it can get a lot sometimes.
Do you know what's really like? I think I've always been really extroverted, but as I've gotten older, I've become like a more introverted extrovert, right? Where I just that alone time is golden.
Yes.
It is like beautiful for me.
Yeah.
Where sometimes I just sit there and I'm like, I just need to have a minute
Yeah, I agree.
where everyone around me just stops and that I can find my stillness in being alone and actually just being like, there are no external factors. There is no, added pressure or other voices. I just need to be in my own head with my own thoughts and just – I think growing up, I used to fight that being alone.
Yeah.
I had my times where I was alone, you know, whether it was because I was single or, it was, in the middle of a fight camp or whatever. And, you'd be alone and you'd be alone with your thoughts and go, this is horrible.
Yeah, it's a war zone.
That.
Yeah. I had to really learn to make the place in my mind a nice place to be. And to me, that started by doing things alone and then talking to myself, and then I'll have a really I really resonate with I'm my worst critic because I'm fucking so rude and mean to myself sometimes.
Always.
Yeah, and like everyone I feel can relate to that, but
I love that for you.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. What do you mean?
Well, because at least I'm not the only one who does that.
It's 100%,
Yeah.
and it's always coming in, but.
Why not fight with yourself though?
Why not fight with myself?
Why not? Yeah.
Well, look.
Who wants to be mediocre?
Agreed. But then that's when I literally talk to myself like a crazy person, where I'm like, was that productive? Like, was that constructive? If you're not being constructive and helping me get to where you need me to be, fuck off. You know. And
but do you think just by acknowledging the thoughts that you're actually having them, that is actually progression in a way? Because you're aware.
Yeah.
Imagine being, that person that stands in the lift and literally just waits for their floor to open and not having any thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, are they going anywhere other than to level 25?
Well, I think they're the ones who don't know why they have a war in their head. And they're the ones who don't know why they're angry at the world and can't control the things in their life. You know, I think having that battle, and it doesn't mean I've overcome it, but learning to navigate that relationship.
Insight.
Yeah. I think that's what kind of creates the comfort, but that's really just maturation, is learning to be with yourself, essentially.
Yeah.
As you said just then, like that, hey, I'm alone and it's okay, you know? Like, everything is okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to say the C word, but I feel like COVID really...
yeah, don't roll me up. Sorry.
I'm not going to try. But I feel like that as a point in time was for potentially the first time for a lot of people where they ever had to sit alone.
Yeah.
Sit with their own guilt, sit with their own loneliness, sit with their own misery, sit with it for a prolonged period of time where there was no easy out.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm really glad that I got my opportunity to sit with my loneliness and, my thoughts, and I, had to sit with that before that time, so I knew I was going to be okay and comfortable in that, period of alone.
Yeah, you're right.
And I feel like
even that was probably a struggle for everyone, having had the past experience as well.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to interject there, but
please.
Just to add on is, for those people who haven't had the time previously and then just get plunked with themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty rotten. Pretty rotten. But, I think... this is this whole notion of, are you a victim, or are you a victim of your circumstance, or are you going to thrive and survive through it at some point? If you're always going to hate and feel sorry for yourself, there is no progression out of that.
Yes.
You have to want to see yourself be better. Mm-hmm. And if you're not learning something out of it, then it was a waste.
Yeah,
so
I fully agree with that. I would just add that, again, always trying to just equilibrium, rebalance. I like to be careful not to mistake gratitude for repression, where sometimes it's like, this is happening, but then you kind of go, oh, but I'm grateful for this, that. Sometimes it's okay to not be grateful, to be mad at your situation.
Mad.
You know what I mean?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Let yourself feel that sometimes you are or were a victim of a circumstance, and the world wasn't nice to you, and you didn't deserve what happened.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes moments where it's like, yes, gratitude and control.
It's an acknowledgement.
Yeah, it's just make sure. I like to let myself feel what I'm feeling in its entirety, and then you can kind of put it aside and be like, all right, I'm not defined by that anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
You put a little Pandora's box.
Yeah, okay.
I've built a shelf in here.
Okay, yeah.
And it's, I open it up and I put a little box inside there and I just put all my shit in there.
Yep.
And it stays on the box in there. And sometimes when I want to open it up and take it back out again and revisit it and be mad about it, I do. And then I close it back up and I put it away.
Yeah.
We all have to have a little Pandora's box of shit.
Yeah, you have to open the box.
Sometimes.
You know? So, well, if you don't, and you'll...
It manifests into something greater
elsewhere.
than that.
Yeah. The monster under the rug gets angry at you,
100%.
And then it might slip out in the relationships you don't want it to slip out on, and you're arguing this previous demon with your current, like, whoever. And it's kind of like, I guess, again, check your own biases of, who am I arguing with right now? Why am I... Did my response require this for this situation? In hindsight, no.
Probably not.
You know what I mean? Seriously, I've done that quite a bit now, and I'm like, fuck, I need I need to pull up. That's seriously like, but this is the process. We're just learning how to life, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is, I think this is the repression of, I think the surge of women. We're learning how to vocalize what we're actually like going through at this moment.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think that's like, just generally check yourself, but also let yourself.
Yeah, no, bang on.
Yeah.
And I think it applies to everyone, but we're in a relatively new world of women empowerment and women. We've switched so many women's minds on in the best sense that they're in the workforce. They're in every force, like, because it's not all just labor intensive. The reality is men on average are stronger than women. So when labor was the thing, they were in the dominant field. But now, like, we're equalized. I don't know what the studies are. Are women better at multitasking even than men? There's dualities, but
Always.
yeah. So I don't know. My assumption would be if men are physically stronger, women have a more mental kind of capacity. But that's just my assumption. I don't know. I don't know
either.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is it's definitely equalized. So it's a new world where you're, navigating being a woman in this new world on equal terms. But we also still have our biological natures. But a lot of it is socially pushed down. So how do we just untangle this?
Just building this friggin' thing.
But that's it's complex systems. There's so much happening in the world.
It's exhausting. We're adulting.
Yeah. But that's really why I appreciate like you coming on and speaking your experience and just the importance of conversations in general.
Yeah.
Like it's so easy to others. I guess what has your experience been with men in the industry who have tried to subjugate you, or just the struggles of being a woman in a male-dominated field? Has it?
Gosh, I remember. This is such a I don't think I really was prepared for how I would feel. Or how I would be made to feel being a woman in a construction industry. It went from being either incredibly supported or, having a middle-aged man hit my ass with a checkbook as I walked down the corridor kind of thing. We don't have checkbooks anymore. That's also saying something about my age. But like,
That's but that's fucked up actually. Wow.
Or you're in your early 20s. Shouldn't you be using your ovaries at this point rather than being in this office? Or
really?
These things were just part of my day.
Yeah, and you're only saying the things that are explicitly verbalized.
Yeah.
You've just said that, but this doesn't account for the implicit feel in the room which captures what you're saying. Like there's so much left out in the words that are spoken. So I'm imagining the experience itself was 10, if not 100-fold of what you've just said.
Wild.
Yeah, seriously, because most of the things are in the implicit. So
yeah.
I don't even want to say it, but yeah, the fact that he did that, God only knows, me as an outsider, what you felt like in that environment that whole time. That's fucked up.
It was really, I think, and this is the sort of the impetus of being raised as an ethnic child in a way, was that I was so afraid of my, my bosses or like the authority.
Yes. Yeah. Bang on.
That I didn't feel like I had the voice to actually say, don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
If anything, I was just like, that happened, and I just go back to my desk and be like, oh, okay, that's what happened today, and that's okay.
Can I explore a relatively abstract thought?
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about this. Could a part of that transition, because a lot of things, there's a reason things happen. That is not a way to say it is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Could a part of that be back in the day, because women weren't valued by labor? I think I think a lot of women's power came from the seduction of a man in power. Is that wrong to assume that?
No, I don't think that's...
I think, you don't think it's wrong? Or
I don't think it's wrong.
Okay, yeah, all right, so it's just calibrating while I keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that was the way a woman would get in power, was she'd be youthful and like
desirable.
That was her only power because it wasn't economic.
Yeah.
So she'd have the ability, and this is, I think, a beautiful thing as well, is in terms of the conversation of victimhood, women do have the enchantment power. You do.
You do, and you have to capitalize on that.
You have to capitalize on it, exactly. Yeah. So there's a balance between that seduction ability, but then I think you got this guy who is a part of that old world where he's like, I'm just the authority, this, that. And it's, I think what I'm trying to say is, I get why, but I could see why that's in the past and why it played out that way and why that power got abused and why it's irrelevant now.
Yeah.
Because no, as a woman, you don't need to, like, I've got so much more than your ability just to say, all right, literally objectify, you're a piece of me. This is, I can get whatever. Yeah. So,
but it's funny, I think that, so when I say back then was like literally 15 years ago.
Oh, so nothing.
It's not even that long.
Why are you playing out like
not even that
you're an
long.
oldie? But that's not
no, but it was, it wasn't even really that long ago. And I think it's kind of crazy to think that, 15 years ago, that was a behaviour that wasn't really policed or, really made known that was really wrong, and you just don't do that to a 22-year-old girl. You just don't do that.
Yeah.
What's really funny is that
there's consequences.
Yeah, there should be consequences. I think there was a consequence for him, but I'll keep that one.
Good. All right. Yeah, but good. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, seriously. But then I think that whilst that physical behaviour has absolutely changed in the industry, that's not there anymore, I don't think, or haven't experienced it personally in 15 years since. There's definitely a shift being like, almost 50-50 women in, architecture anyway. There has been an absolute shift, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Some of the best teams I work in are just like women.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
My favourite project manager was a woman.
Yes.
Is a woman. But,
Queen.
Queen. #Queen, KWEEN. And she has the aggression, she has the competence, but she has this like peculiar relative to what's normal style of like heterodox. It wasn't like a typical environment. And I speak to anyone who worked on that site, trades and management, everyone says that was the fucking job.
Yes.
Like that was the job, and it was just different, and the energy was there, and we killed it, made a stupid amount of money.
Yep.
So, but that's not just to say because she's a woman it was perfect, but there was an element of alternative style,
Yeah, it created a different balance.
Yes, yeah.
The ecosystem was slightly disrupted, but for a good thing. And I think, like that sort of real old school behaviour where you're going to smack a woman on the ass kind of thing has absolutely that seems to have gone, and it's changed, and it's kind of, I feel like that really taught me a lesson about how I interact with men.
Okay.
And I felt like I really had to tailor my approach in dealing with men.
Yeah.
And so as a woman, I felt like, and there was a point in time also being quite young, I was gunning for it. When I was like fresh out of uni, straight into architecture, I studied my butt off and then got to the end, graduated with a master's degree by the time I was 22.
Oh, yeah.
Got out into...
Fuck, good effort. Wow. Yeah.
Mate, just
Fuck,
went.
you just went.
I just went.
Yeah.
There was no stopping. And then when I got out of uni, I was like, and I'm going to get registered. And I got registered in honestly, I was registered in 2 years.
Wow.
The minimum amount of time.
Yeah.
And I failed one of my interviews actually. Like when I was getting registered, I had this middle-aged bloke who was just like a real misogynist. He was so condescending and he just badgered me. I sat in this interview and I was like, I feel young. I was like 24 and he just badgered me and just kept going and kept going, kept going. And
Oh, you can't handle this? Oh, is that right?
And that's what he was like.
But it's like, fuck,
And
why
that's
you
what
would...
he was like. I'm like, God, you're a dick.
Yeah, why be a piece of shit? Like,
Yeah. And he just kept on going. He's like, well, this is what it's going to be like and rah, rah, rah. And I just remember like walking out the door and I just cried.
Yeah.
And I hated crying because, you know, I'm tough and I don't cry.
Why is it looked down? I agree.
I know, but
like,
yeah, it was like, I get that.
and that's the worst. And I can imagine that it was so much worse because in that moment you're like, he's right. I'm crying.
I'm crying. I'm weak.
Yeah. He was right that I can't handle it. But no, it's you were attacked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're feeling
oh
things.
Oh my gosh, I was totally badgered and it was just bullshit. Anyway, but I advocated for myself and I went back to the institute and I told them what had happened and that I needed a resit and I absolutely demanded it and I got it and then I passed in the same round. I didn't have to wait. And I was just like, yeah, this is, go fuck that guy, seriously.
Yeah.
But it really made me, like these really informative years of my career where I was like so young and just like wanted to do a good job and I wanted to be great and I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I'd been wanting to do it since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I just had these middle-aged men who were just absolute flogs who just used to say the most inappropriate things and do the most inappropriate things and I felt like I was so worthless being in that environment. And
it doesn't need to be that way.
It doesn't. Like, absolutely
there's no benefit other than, and this is where I understand it, there is an element of gatekeeping.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is for us, but
yeah. I can't believe you brought a woman. Heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid.
You know what though? Like, hats off. Thanks very much for being an asshole because, you know, I fought for it and I got it. And I'd love to go back and see all of those men now and just feel like, hey, remember that time?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so, you know, like I think this goes back to that whole be mad at the world kind of thing, let that feeling happen. And it was a shit time and it didn't need to be like that and all of those kinds of things. But I absolutely sort of like revel in it as well to know that
adversary.
It didn't break me. That wasn't the thing that broke me.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Yeah. That's such a weird balance because are you grateful for it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because people shouldn't have to go through that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I'm speaking for myself as well. It's like, things that like adversity, I wouldn't change a thing in my life right now. And I say that because I'm so proud of who I am, where I'm sitting on this chair right now. I'm just proud of every amalgamation that's made me who I am.
Yeah.
But at the time, most of them, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, so then it's this weird,
The tension.
am I grateful?
Yeah.
The tension. Is that a necessary evil
Yeah.
that these people can kind of put? Would you, I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
If I had a daughter, I wouldn't want her to go through that.
But exactly.
I wouldn't.
But then it's this thing of like,
But if she had
who
to,
can
she'd
she
be
become?
strong enough to deal with it. Absolutely.
So it's a battle,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's, you know, but like the grit and resilience, I feel like it also made me feel like I had to be more like them sometimes. Like in those early days where I was like, I'm notably different. I'm a woman and I'm, you know, not older and more mature and I'm running these jobs. You know, like I had a real amazing kickstart in my career where I was just like running decent sized projects on my own. And just like knowing that I was different but then having to play the game.
Yeah.
And just like, okay, well, I am going to maybe have to in certain instances, and I hate that I'm going to say this,
Please.
but
Safe space. Serious.
I felt like I had to lean in on the fact that I was a woman.
Yes, I get that.
And if I was going to wear a skirt, I was going to wear a skirt. And, you
Oh,
know, if I was going to sorry, but
yeah.
you know, if I was going to be just a little bit more, I don't know, you tell me. Meek demeanor, like, really quiet and subdued, and just be like, well, you're the man. You tell me how you want it to be done. I can't.
But that's the feminine power.
That was my power.
But there's the masculine power and there's the feminine power, and that's the beauty of your ability to oscillate between the two. Is you
say it with a smile.
Oscillate between the two is you have the power to work on both energies for what you need it for.
It's been honing in on that craft for a few years now.
Good. I really appreciate you said that, because that's the importance of the duality to get to where you need to go.
Yeah. And it's funny, the shame sometimes of feeling like you're doing that, because it almost sounds manipulative.
But sorry, even if it is everything, even if it is, at the end of the day, you're performing, you're competent. When you say running the jobs, you're running the jobs. You're not just there. So as long as these like competence boxes are ticked, everyone's playing this hierarchy game.
Yeah.
We're all playing the game. So like I don't like to stigmatize the word manipulation, in a sense that as long as you're honest about the craft and the core parts aren't deceptive, the way you kind of maneuver there on a human relationship level, fuck yeah, I'm going to manipulate everyone.
Well,
I'll smile if I don't have to smile.
Yeah.
But I'm going to fucking sometimes hey, let's go to work. That's my version. Or I'm like, yeah, I want to talk right now. Like I have my customer service voice on, even with like everyone sometimes. So nothing. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
there, but
go,
like,
please.
Go off.
We're
King.
here. Nah.
Straight out. But yeah, I think, and sorry, because the word manipulate, I really wanted to. I don't know why it triggered this response in me, but I feel like I don't want it to be a negative
to sound
thing.
negative.
Sorry, but did you feel that from a shameful way, the manipulate?
I think because I always felt like I just wanted to fit in with the boys.
Yeah.
And then realizing that I fundamentally was never going to fit in with the boys.
Yeah.
I have this really
This is awesome. I love this.
I have this really key moment of like in my sort of really early 20s, and I was being at uni and I had a lot of male friends. Like I was always, I think I gravitated towards like that male.
Straight shooters.
Yeah, I was just like, well, none of this female bullshit. Like, let me hang out with the boys. And I remember one night, like all of my male friends went out and I didn't get an invite. And
I'm sorry, I can imagine how much that would have been.
Like I was dirty. I was dirty to the point that I told my dad.
Yeah. Oh.
I was like, Dad,
this motherfucker.
would you believe the boys are going out tonight and I'm not invited? And he's like, and this is like such a poignant memory in my mind, because he's gone, you know what, Georgia, I'm going to just say, like, guys like to be dickheads in front of their mates and they don't want a girl watching. And I was like, yeah, but I'm one of them. And he's like, nah, you're not.
Oh, I get this. I know what you mean. It's so, but I want to give them the benefit of doubt and say, and your dad, that they're right in that idea that, like, I think it's so, because at the end of the day, the message is, you're not one of us.
I'm not one of them.
But I think in this context, it's almost a respect thing, maybe.
I
don't want to be.
I think so.
Like,
it was also probably because they were going to get up to some mischief,
exactly,
and they were like, we can't have Georgia watching.
Yes, exactly.
And it was just like, I can come to the club. But yeah, that like growing up, I feel like having always been that tomboyish, like really sort of masculine energy, being told that I couldn't go out with the boys that night because I wasn't one of the boys, and then like getting out onto job sites and being like, I'm still not one of the boys,
and you don't fit in with the women,
and I don't fit out, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, God, I'm at the battle with absolutely everyone. What the fuck do I do with my life?
Who am I?
And it was torture. And it was so fucked, because I just sat there and I'm like, but I'm funny, and
I'll say it like it is.
And I'm like, I'm honest and all of those kinds of things. And then it like, it honestly made me realize that I just had to not give a fuck about what everybody else was thinking about me or doing. And you know what, if it was about the way that I was going to conduct myself on site, it was about delivering a product that was honest to what had been designed and drawn. It's about keeping people happy about coming to work every single day. It's about me being happy, and it's about like fulfilling a part of me that I felt like I'd been working towards my entire life. Like I really and it made everything else somehow fall into place.
That's beautiful. Yes, that makes so much sense.
Because I feel like it just really. Well,
that's I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really believe in callings, and when you and it really seems like you have from 8 years old. Find that calling, the thing that's literally calling for you, the thing that you can't not be doing. I think the world just falls into place. It has
some things do.
Yeah, and a part of that story for you is this experience with the boys, where it's like, wait, I'm a woman. You know what I mean? It's like, and it sounds funny to say it out loud, but like that realization of, they're not ever going to accept me as a male. You know what I mean? Like that. So I can imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that a point where you're like, wait, fuck this, I'm going to use my feminine
It was a real tipping
as well?
point.
Yeah,
it was a really tipping point, because I think that, you know, like from there, and you know, there are a few little things that are like, I guess even just like the way that I dressed, and you know, I was just very much like, I mean, I'm jeans and t-shirt now, whatever, but like I'm coming in with heels on. That's totally fine.
No, like
but you know, I think
see the mix.
It's the mix, right? But like, I just remember sitting there being like, well, I was always in like jeans and sneakers and a t-shirt and whatever and blah blah blah. And then I remember like being absolutely ditched for the boys, and they wouldn't invite me out. And then the next time we went out, and I put on a really tight dress and some high heels, and they were like, "Whoa,
yeah, okay."
Are you coming out with us tonight? And I was like, no, I'm not actually. But it really, like, it was the moment where I was like, well, if I'm not the boys,
well,
maybe I'm hanging out with the girls.
Yeah, and the reality of it is, like, we're talking about you, but we've left out from this scenario the boys in your group that maybe one of them had a crush on you. You know what I mean? Maybe when you're there, there's a rivalry starts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like a tension between the boys because there's a woman in the group. So as much as we're saying, yeah, you're a woman, they're the boys, and maybe they wanted this kind of relief of, it's not about not having Georgia there.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? Seriously, it's not about not having Georgia there. It's about not having a person there, a distraction that's going to fucking turn them on each other, get drunk and start punching each other. So, like a very real reality.
I love that.
I think
Thank you for making me feel better about that. Because, you know, like, far out 14 years later, I'm like, why did they invite me out?
Fuck 'em. But I think, like, whether they even knew that then or not, that's this comfort of the boys only is, like, even just not even boys, girls, whatever. Let's say there's two people in a room. You add a third, the dynamic just changes.
Yeah.
It's completely different dynamic depending on the relationship of that person to that person. And then everything changes. So let's say it's the boys group. Yeah, if you add a woman relative to a man, just depending on what they wanted for that night, the dynamic can completely change. As comfortable as you guys are together, as much as you were one of the boys, it's... I want to give them that benefit of doubt.
They can have it. That's
we forgive you, fellas.
That's all right.
Wherever you are.
I know, bless. I haven't spoken to them for that long, but like...
They're like, wait, she hates. That's why she stopped talking to us.
No, because I just, you know, I think that like I think also growing up, like thinking that I was one of the boys or wanting to be so desperately one of the boys, and then realizing that I wasn't really one of the boys, you know, that kind of tipped the scale into like who I was actually sort of growing in to be
and trying to be
who I
as well.
wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like there were some key moments after that as I grew up and certain other external influences in my life made me realize that I don't have to be one of the boys, or I don't have to be a tomboy, or I don't have to be this. I can actually be feminine and do my job, do it well, or relate to people and still be a woman and do all of those things and just like have it all, basically, because I think that's the, I think as a woman in industry as well, you kind of look to that, like the mentors and the leadership, and you want to look to the women that have it all. They feel, you look at them and they're like, well, they have the family life, or they have the work-life balance, or they're doing this and they're doing that, and you're like, how do you have it all?
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know if it's the same for men, if men even like think like that.
Well, I think women have this. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm curious because it's like, women do. The more women that I talk to in particularly in my workplace, like, how do you balance it? How do you have it all? How do you have like a social life, or
to be honest,
a focus in things?
The women I talk to who career driven or even not, but end up having kids, I really feel for them. Genuinely, I just like it's a full-time job on top of your full-time job, and then breastfeeding on top of that is another full-time job, and then I just can't. I think it's easier. I think we're like. I don't know if they do have it all. I don't know if women in our modern day have the support to be mothers. You know what I mean?
No.
Or are encouraged to be mothers in a sense
and a career person.
And a career. Well, exactly. There's how do you balance it? And then more importantly, like how do you I don't know, the women that I know, they're kind of crumbling under this pressure and this lack of a support network. And then the husband's out doing things as well. And then he's coming home tired and he can't look after the kids. So now she, for some reason, and I kind of get it, being a mother, there's a natural maternal instinct early, which I think you can't replace with the father, like real early though. Yeah. But then it has to equalize. And it doesn't equalize.
I don't think it does.
It doesn't. And then there's this just, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is to encourage mothers into motherhood while allowing them the progression and the agency of a career. I don't know what the balance is. I did hear someone say that women should get paid more than men to account for the value of motherhood in society.
Yeah.
So but then I don't know how you police that. Is it like you need to have a child if you want to get paid more? I don't know.
Gosh.
But the idea is give women more money, because motherhood is ultimately, or just parenting, sorry, because we don't want to gender it too much. But let's say I do want to talk about the importance of motherhood. It's an unofficial power. It's off the books. We as a society have kind of written it off, but parenting is providing the next generation of humans. So I guess what I'm getting at with this is, and I don't think we're going to solve it here, but how do you incentivize, and then how do you support women to do it all?
Yeah.
And
in the right time. And
exactly.
It's funny. I feel like I think I heard that, I don't know, there was an organization, maybe Google, were offering women to freeze their eggs.
Oh.
So that they had the opportunity.
There you go. That's fucking sick.
It's a start, right?
Yeah,
it's a start. But they were giving women the opportunity to freeze their eggs, harvest their eggs, so that they could focus on their career in those pivotal moments where, you're making probably your biggest career leaps, I suppose. Yeah. Without missing out on the opportunity.
That's awesome.
If you presented that you wanted to have a family.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's absolutely it's a great incentive for women to want to progress their career, and also feel, I think women are really loyal creatures. I think it's quite innate in the way that we can't ignore our genetic makeup and our physiology to be carers and nurturers, and because that's what we're built for.
And I think a part of that, to kind of ground that in the biology element, is I think women have evolved to pick their partners very carefully, because there is going to be a reality where if you do want to procreate, you have 9 months of vulnerability. You're going to get killed. You know what I mean? While you're out there, you're not running from that tiger. You know what I mean? So you do need to
But watch me.
But watch me. Fucking watch me. You know, so just fucking swinging off the vine. But like, but honestly, in saying that, I've seen a female bodybuilder who was pregnant,
Dude.
fucking popping squats, deadlifts. So
Mummy muscles.
So I like that you said that because you reminded me of that. So sorry, I take that back to some degree. You are still very much capable.
Yeah.
But the idea is that
It's not a disability.
It's not a disability,
Yeah.
but it makes sense that you would opt for a more loyal outlook on life, where you select for loyalty based on your nature, because you need someone who's going to care. Not need, but ideally the probability of survival increases if the person you've chose is the right one and is not just going to fucking
I
leave.
read this really interesting thing about how human women are the only mammals who actually look for or will settle for a male partner who's not better than them.
Who's not better than them?
So in the animal kingdom. In the animal kingdom.
But define better though.
Oh, yeah, look, that's exactly right. But in the animal kingdom, you know, like females are like, you know, looking for their suitor and they better be the stronger, the faster, the more capable, you know, all of that. And women will just settle.
Yeah.
Women will just.
But that's because we have detached from the reality of survival.
Yeah.
We don't know what.
It's not there.
We're not there. Yeah, we don't like. We're still the
but
same.
But women are also really independent now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like we're the same humans, but we're tackling this battle of we're the same humans, but we're not living in that same world.
No.
So there's kind of an innate drive, but also it's kind of not redundant, but it's not as needed for survival, which is why what you're saying now, I can understand why. Yeah, women can settle and be the breadwinner.
Yeah.
And like that's why you see now this kind of this new era of like instead of sugar daddy, it's like a cougar mum kind of thing where she's got the money.
Yeah.
And there's a young buck and he's just like
just a hot young thing.
Just a hot young thing. And the dynamic's changing because it can change,
yeah,
you know?
Because I think especially if, no, but like, I'm going to say it because I'm kind of, I don't want to say that I'm in that situation. Bless. But I think as a woman and as a somebody who has like absolutely gone for their career and tried absolutely their best to get everything that they've ever wanted. When I was in a position where I was single and I was looking for a partner, it didn't matter about like, you know, if he was earning more money or if he was, you know, the more dominant masculine, this, that, the other. I was looking for somebody who was kind and who was going to care and who was going to be supportive. And like, I was looking for a totally different set of characteristics because like those, I guess, maybe, you know, 1950s ideals of, you know, being the stay at home and, you know, you need a breadwinner and you need this, that just didn't really apply anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. But I feel like, and I don't think I disagree, but I'm going to kind of different angle a bit. I like, as a man, I like the idea of for women being able to, we have an agreement that if there's a safety concern, I'll stick my neck out on the line for you and you don't have to.
Yeah, I don't want to be,
that as a man, do you know what I mean? So,
honey, I can fight. I don't want to do that. Someone else can do that for me.
But and the reason I said different angle is because I feel like even the term 1950s has a stigma to it. But am I not saying that it is a 1950s kind of vibe where, I'm not saying the man needs to be stronger. The chivalry, honestly, thank you for that word. Yeah. Why have we lost the word chivalry? Like it's, and then, so you weren't looking for a more dominant.
No, but I was looking for chivalry.
Yeah. But I guess, is there an inclination to, I don't want to use the word dominant here, but to be protected as a woman? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely.
But yeah, that doesn't take away from anything that you've said at all. Yeah.
No, I don't. No, actually, like I think it enhances what I'm trying to get at is that like, as somebody who is fiercely independent, I do want somebody who's going to be kind and caring and nurture and actually open the door for me and be kind.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's what like, you know, chivalry is not dead. There are absolutely chivalrous people out there.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know if we're so caught up on, you know, being fierce that we haven't realized that that's actually still like in its own right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's fierce. It's in its own right.
Yeah.
The wanting to, the absolute desire to care for somebody else or to want to like support them or make them feel safe.
Well, yeah. But like to kind of circle back to as a woman moving into the feminine energy of allowing the man to open the door for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
love that.
You have the capacity to open the door. You don't need to, and this is again, like, I've come circles on circles, but that's the point of not reacting, because I feel like from a reactionary perspective, it's instantly, why are you opening the door? Can't I do it myself? That's a reaction compared to, you know, you can open it yourself, but you're not reacting to the door being opened. So you're like, all right, he wants to open the door for his woman. So
if I'm on all day, every day, and I like have to, you know, put on the facade and just like grit and bear some of like the shit that goes on and deal with blokes on site and just all of the attitude, I want someone to open the goddamn door for me when I get home.
Fucking well said.
Put the oven on.
Put the fucking oven on.
Mama's had a day.
No, it's good. I had a thought earlier, and it kind of plays into the next question. We've already touched on most of these, but we'll dive in a bit more. One, we were talking about in terms of just the male-dominant industry and being a woman in it. I feel like we have to kind of realize that male or female, that it's always a triangle and there's always one person at the top. So I think I'd maybe make the distinction more corporate, non-corporate. When you enter a more corporate realm, I think to climb that ladder, people are going to try to step on your neck and just hurt you where they think it hurts. So sometimes you just being a woman is just a byproduct of they're just a piece of shit who, if it was a man in your position, they'll just find their thing and try crush them with it as well. So I think maybe just a mental note out loud that we need to remember that sometimes it's not even about us.
No.
It's got nothing to do with us. It's people just projecting their shitness. And
I think you've absolutely just hit it on the head though, like anybody, but I think particularly women in an industry that is typically male dominated, although architecture and construction is definitely balancing out. You're always going to be able to say in any opportunity, I didn't get that promotion because a bloke got it, or I didn't. You're going to be able to do that in any circumstance. But I think the moment that you stop giving a shit about what everyone else is doing around you and you start focusing on yourself, the less fucks you give for the bloke that got the promotion, and the more reasons why you actually probably want to look inwardly about either maybe the reasons why you didn't, or, and I don't want to say but or is this the right path that you should be following? Is this the way that you want to, like, if this is where you're at and you feel genuinely, like, no bias aside, but you genuinely feel that the only reason why you didn't get it and he did, is that where you want to be in your life? Like, is that who you want to be fighting for? Like, are you still fighting for yourself anymore? Or are you just fighting for, like, an uphill battle that's...
Yeah, an image of what you want as opposed to who you are. Yeah. No, that's beautiful, actually, because that was kind of my next question is... Oh, you just nailed it. That was good. Because, it's that internal just understanding.
Yeah.
How do you check your own biases? And this is, again, the tango and the tension of figuring out the distinction between, is it an external factor or can I hone my craft better? But then there is this kind of, I fully put my progressive left hat on, where seriously, because I switch hats. Yeah, I'll just, I can fully put my feminist hat on in its entirety and say, sometimes we need this like social moral force of a push because there is a social wall that is stopping women from getting in.
Yeah.
So I think it's like we need to be 100% comfortable to say it might be this or it might be that.
Yeah.
How do you check your own biases? How do you know?
That's so complex. I think probably as a younger person, I think that in my earlier days, I was very unaware of what, the challenges were going to be. And I also don't think I knew people.
Okay.
I don't think I understood people.
Yeah.
Life is like, it's the more people you get to meet, the more variety and the like actually understanding what people are thinking
and your responses
and how you react to the way that they're verbally thinking out loud or whatever, blah blah blah. The more that you actually start like piecing those things together, I think that really is what starts to inform the way that you can distinguish between, is it a me thing or is it a you thing?
Yeah, well said.
Is this is this like, and I think this is just having your eyes open to accepting the variety of people that are out there, and not that they have to, you don't have to like them.
Yeah.
Acceptance doesn't mean like, I accept how you are and now we're friends.
Or I approve.
No, absolutely not. Acceptance is just like creating a calm space within yourself where you kind of go, you're a piece of shit. Or I don't like the way that you're doing that. Or I actually love that about you. Like, yes, tick. But the more of those like, categories I suppose you can create in your mind that you go, I'm aligning to this or I'm not aligning to that, and realizing that I actually am like fundamentally a good person. And the things that I want aren't actually about just like what I want for my own personal gain. I want better development of a system, or I want, like a project outcome, or I want, a relationship outcome, or whatever the case may be, is realizing that like the things that you want aren't actually for you at the, like, yes, there's a part of you benefiting because, it makes for a better circumstance or whatever.
Well, it's the drive of your story.
Yeah, exactly. But like the more that you start to like, I think, formulate that it's not just about me, it's actually about the whole circumstance, I think, and you're piecing together all of the experience and the knowledge of the people around you or the people that you've met or whatever. When it comes to a crossroads and you kind of have to make a call, you have all of this collateral.
Yeah.
You have all of this data that you've just been honing in on and just collecting and putting together, that you turn around and you go, I'm at this, like, the fork in the road. Which way do I want to go?
Yeah.
And using all of those skills that actually go, actually, I think that I was never going to be the right cultural fit, or I am going to be the right leader, or whatever it might be. But like being able to distinguish, like, is it actually about me and who I am?
Yeah.
Or is it about the circumstance and what they want for it?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the only way that I feel like I can check. And I call my sister all the time.
Well, yeah, support network.
Yeah.
Honest people who will call you out on your bullshit as well.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I know. I hate it when that happens.
No, I agree. And a part of that is like, through the relationships, you see your reactions to different things. And then you kind of realize how multifaceted you are as well.
Yeah.
And how sometimes you'd react to a situation where that's a different version of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, like, I really appreciate that you acknowledge the ability to play into the feminine energy as well, because that as well, it's like certain things where it's like there's different versions of you for different situations as well, depending on what you need.
Oh,
and if you can,
so many hats.
Yeah. And if you can see them and acknowledge them, I feel like that understanding is a good measure to know when, seeing different versions, somewhat detached, allows you to kind of check your biases because you're understanding that version of yourself that's in that situation as well.
Yeah.
And that comes, I think, from what you're saying is the different relationships, the maturation, growing into yourself and your interests as well. Time. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yep.
And just the growth that comes with it.
Life. It's wonderful.
I got to learn how to edit, but
I know. Can you put a little rainbow?
Yeah. We'll see if I nailed that or not.
Yeah.
How did you get into the boxing career? You said you were fighting on an Olympic level.
Yeah, well, I didn't quite get there. I really wanted it.
Okay.
I wanted it so bad. So I guess after I studied architecture, it's really quite interesting. I was really fat and unhealthy.
Yeah, okay.
I just
drank
beer and I smoked.
You're just playing into it. This is like
it was horrible.
But like
my lifestyle was trash. It was trash.
It's just indulgence. Gluttony. I love that word.
Gluttony. You know, it was. I think I was so. I was studying architecture and I was so stressed, and I was tired. I was just shitty all the time when I was doing my master's degree, and then I just really just stopped looking after myself. I was always really athletic and always really into sport and health and, just did it all. But then I just absolutely fell off the rails.
Yeah.
And then when I first started working, I was working in an office where my boss would smoke in the office and he would drink whiskey under his desk.
Come on,
and
Georgia.
he's just and just rock up to work at 11 and, just really it was the first time I'd ever eaten raisin toast with a shitload of butter. I don't know. Honestly, I know that sounds really random, but it was just so unhealthy. Everything was so unhealthy about the start of that.
I just that was a significant moment.
And then
sorry, I used to, as a kid, eat butter with a spoon.
You're disgusting. That's foul. I'm absolutely
I thought this was a safe space.
It's not. That is absolute full-blown judgment there. That's disgusting.
Sometimes shame is required.
Oh my God.
I thought we were relating, but that's
butter.
Go.
Yeah, thanks. And I was just driving on the freeway one day, and look, I want to preface this with saying that I actually was I started doing Taekwondo when I was 12.
Nice. Yeah.
And there was a Hall's Taekwondo near my house, and my mum and dad used to take me there and whatever. And then I'd been there for a little while, and the head coach there was do you want to do a competition? And I was yes, Mum, Dad, can I do this Taekwondo competition? And my dad was absolutely not.
Yeah.
What if you get kicked in the uterus and you can't make babies?
Was that, that was
actually how it came out.
Before head?
No, forget getting kicked in the head. That should have been the bigger problem, let's be real. But what if something goes wrong and my,
your only value as a human being.
reproductive function is just diminished.
Yeah, as if that's the only thing. Yeah.
Totally. And and I just remember was absolutely mortified by that. And I just stopped. I stopped Taekwondo immediately. I was no, not doing it anymore. And I was just fine, just don't do that. Played netball instead, whatever.
Yeah, okay.
And so fast forward, went through my architecture degree, was incredibly unhealthy and unfit, and was on the freeway driving, and I saw an advertisement for boxing.
Yeah.
And I was I'm going to do that. And I rocked up to this, it was a fitness class type arrangement where, you just go there and you have 3 minutes and you pop on a bag, and then you go on to your next round and you just do whatever you do. And I'd done 12 weeks and was dropped, about 15 kilos.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely smashed it.
Whoa.
Was really went down the road. And I got to the end of my 12 weeks and they're like, you've done really well. What do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to fight. And they're like,
fire just burning, yeah.
like straight away. And they were like, we just do classes. But they had fighters in the gym, which I don't understand. Like, big mistake.
Yeah.
Like, why not coach me? And so I was like, fuck it. And I left. I was like, fine. And I went to like a local gym near my place and I met this guy in there who was taking like boxing classes. And I just said to him like, hey, I want to fight and I don't know where to go. And he like
just straight
up, honestly, no chill. And he was like, look, come and do a PT with me and then, we'll see, whatever, rah, rah. And so like I went and I did a half-hour PT and, ran me on the pads for a bit and he's just like, I'll introduce you to my coach. He's like, you can do classes with me and PTs in the meantime, but I'll introduce you to my coach and, he'll let you know what you think. I was like, okay, no worries. So I think that next week I'd gone to this gym that was a bit of away from my place and I met with the head coach there and I was just like, he's like, oh, so what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, I really want to fight. And he was just like, oh, okay. And then this was like 2012.
Yeah, okay.
2011, I think this was. And so he was just like, yep, come in, ran me on the pads and he sat down and he's just like, look, you've not made it for 2012, but Rio's 2016. Do you want to go for it?
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, don't, I'm like, I just really want to fight. And he's just like, yeah, but you could fight wherever you want to fight if you want to fight.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like compute with this, but fuck yes, let's go.
Oh, shit, yeah.
I was just so, it was the first time I felt like there was no resistance.
Encouragement almost.
Yeah. I just walked into the gym and I said, this is what I wanted. And someone was saying, yes.
Yeah.
Let's get this for you.
And you're like, wait, this can happen?
Yeah. Because up until this point, I'd battled for everything.
Yeah.
I'd gone to war with everyone to try to get somewhere.
Or just to be.
Just
almost.
to be.
Yeah.
Shit, yeah. Like, I'm who I am and I just want to be like this. And I didn't have to do that. I just walked in there and I was like, I want this. And he was like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yes.
And so then immediately just like, just got to work. And I think that was like, I had maybe 6 months in the gym before my first fight, which was a title fight, like for a state title.
Wow, yeah.
And I lost.
Yep.
Yeah, but I showboated the shit out of it. Like
Good. Well, the fact you were there is a win, genuinely. Seriously.
Yeah.
But that's still to me a massive jump from having a combative personality, an assertive, a dominant personality, to being okay getting fucking clocked in the face. Like just getting fucking bop. Like that's a big jump.
Yeah.
Like how did you, from the first class, that drive,
Yeah.
was it the losing weight?
Like I think it was an empowerment thing.
But do you get my questions kind of specifically? Were you, it just even within myself, it baffles me when I'm in a ring. Not that I do much, but I have like just very casually. So, and any time I've stepped in a ring, the thing I do like about it is the relationship building internally when I'm having anxiety about it. But even then I'm like, why the fuck do I want to step in and just get hit? What made you want to get hit? Am I being silly?
You know what? No, not at all. Not at all. You know what's really funny about that is like leading up to any fight, I would always be a wreck. And like just mostly because I was petrified of whether I would perform, not about like getting hit. I never thought about getting hit.
You were just okay with it?
I was okay with it.
That is
I actually kind of liked it. Like
honestly,
it's a weird it's a really weird thing. It was kind of like getting hit, and this was probably like my biggest downfall in my boxing as well, but getting hit validated me that I was strong.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
Absolutely, just used to go, I can take that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to do something about it. It gave me strength.
You've just triggered that thought in my head where there's always pre-anxiety, and then you cop that first hit, and I'm just like, oh, that was all right.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm like, wait.
Oh, that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Hey, let's go again.
Yeah, let's fucking keep going. Yeah, and like, but I used to love like, literally you see stars where you cop a good hit and it's like, boom. It's like, and it's just like a flash.
Could be a concussion.
Yeah, it might have been a concussion. But it's explaining a lot right now. But no, I think that's like the, you nailed it. You realize you're actually stronger than you think going into it.
Just those words of like being stronger than what I thought absolutely was the things that I held on, that I just held on to that as like I am stronger than any adversity that I felt in any other way, like any other circumstance. I was like, Georgia, you are stronger than you know right now.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
That's a good point.
It was just what gave me my grit or my resilience to, keep on battling.
Yeah.
So that there's that. But then the moment that I would step through the ropes and stand in my corner was like my conscious state of nirvana. Like the silence.
Oh, well, yeah.
The silence was bliss. I would just stand there and be like, I have no thoughts.
Just present.
Just there. And I used to love that. That was my most favorite moment of fighting. The 3 seconds you get before they get the fighters to the middle.
Wow.
It's just beautiful.
That's that's what they call that flow state where you're just one with being and the thought, even if it's there, it's not there. It's not there. It's not there, is it? Yeah.
No, there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's actually like silence.
Yeah. Wow.
It's beautiful.
I think
it gives me like goosebumps when I think about it. Just the thought. Yeah.
That's what I call that creative moment. I don't know how I'm using the word creative here, but it's that moment of just like, presence. But I feel like in those moments there's like I don't know if emergence is the right word, but there's something causing this strengthened relationship with being. And I haven't experienced that much what you're talking about. I only have one significant like meditative experience where it happened, but that was my moment of like silence, like complete silence.
Feeling grounded?
Well, no, feeling floating.
Whoa.
Yeah, genuinely. Like this kind of no thoughts. You know when you close your eyes, it's not black. There's kind of like a luminescent thing.
Yeah.
That almost became, I don't want to say psychedelic, but that was much louder than anything thought.
Else.
Like there was no thoughts essentially.
There was no thoughts.
Yeah. So I feel like finding your flow state in these moments is kind of inducing this kind of just complete presence.
Yeah.
Which is intense.
Addictive.
Addictive. Okay. Yeah.
Addictive. Chasing that sort of. It makes me sad to think about how I haven't been able to find that since.
Yeah.
There's like an emptiness there that sort of that has left.
Yeah.
By not being able to do that.
Yeah.
And just like addictive and what's the word I'm even looking for here? It's just it made me feel like me.
Yeah.
I felt
meaningful as well. Yeah.
Yep.
What was the training process like? Was it rigorous? Was it
my life?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So you just
I lived and breathed it
while
like working my career.
Yeah.
Absolutely, just like my days were dialed into the minute, and I just like it's so funny. Like I look back at that time and I loved it. But I was also the most miserable person that I could have possibly been because I was battling so many things and so many demons at the time. But then working tirelessly, and like there were no sacrifices in my mind to just like doing this. I just was absolutely so obsessed and focused by it that I was just like, yeah, I would wake up in the morning, and I didn't like training in the morning. I would if I was in like a fight camp, and I'd go to the gym. But like, you know, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd like have a black coffee and I would take my dog for a walk, and then I would just, that was like the easing into starting my day, and I still do that now. Like that's still my, you know, morning ritual. But then like I would go into work and I was just like, I would just be on. And then my lunch break would happen. I'd run into the bathroom. I'd get changed. I'd go from like, I'd do my runs. So like I'd, you know, either do like a 5K or I'd do sprints or I'd do whatever. And I'd run on my lunch break and I'd come back and I'd get dressed and I'd eat my lunch. And then I'd finish my work
Just
day.
infused
and
in
then I would
everything.
just go to work. I'd go to the gym and I would train. And then I would, like I worked at the gym as well. So I used to like train a ladies boxing class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I would come home and it'd be like 8:30, 9 p.m. I would eat dinner, I would go to bed, and I would wake up and I would do that day in and day out. And I did that for years.
Wow. I feel like I've had similar, not to that extent, but I know what you mean, where it's so much is happening that you're happy and progressing, but burnout is real.
Burnout.
You know,
Oh my gosh.
Just mental burnout as well. Like, how do you keep up with physically trying to do everything, mentally, and then on top of that, the importance of not always feeling like you need to be productive. Like we kind of have that as well in our head, where you like we've linked productivity with value.
Yep.
But sometimes the most valuable thing to do is to just literally switch off.
Yep.
And just kick the fuck back.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But that's not going to get you where you need to be.
No, it wasn't. No, but not at the time. But I feel like that's just the, it's a moment in time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I used to tell myself like, this is going to pass. The fight camp's going to be over, or, you know, I'm going to have a break. Or I never had a break, but like I'd always, you know, there would be always a moment in time where I'd be like, that's going to pass, and I'll get over it. I just wasn't aware that at the time I was like burning myself out the way that I was, and that time wasn't going to be just like a 16-week fight camp. It was going to turn into like 8 years. Of just like
wow.
being in that rigmarole, because like amateur fights is not like
for it.
They're not like pros. Like the pros are, you know, they'll do like a fight camp that's their 16 weeks or whatever, and they'll have a bit of a breather, and then they'll like, you know, go for the next one or whatever. But amateurs was always like, especially women in boxing, because when I first started, there weren't really many girls around. And so I used to spar a lot with the guys, and getting a fight was like so hard. That, you know, if someone called up and was like, hey, I've got a girl who's, you know, the same experience as your girl, do you want to match up, blah, blah, blah. You didn't get like 16 weeks or 12 weeks or 4 weeks. You might have gotten a fortnight.
Oh, so you just need to be on
So you were
all
just
the time.
on all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you never really got a break. And I feel like those first few years were really tough. And it wasn't probably until I got towards the end where, like, you know, I was, I guess, more experienced in looking for the fights as well, where I was just like, okay, I know that my weight is going to be this, and I can get this many fights and whatever. And, you know, started to enjoy the process a little bit more in that regard. But I feel like it was really hard, like in those first few phases of being like, okay, well, I'm just on all the time.
Yeah. There's no switch on.
There's no off.
Yeah.
And so you live and breathe it before you know it. Yep.
Yeah. Was there like much of a community there? What was it like? Was it positive or toxic with the other women?
It was really funny. I feel like the women actually became really good friends. And so they were, there was a really small group of women.
We kind of need a band together as well.
Yeah, I feel like we were stablemates, and like our weight cuts were what they were. And like, I think also being a woman in a weight-based sport, you know, there are hormonal fluctuations.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That, you know, the other guys in the gym didn't know what you were going through.
Yeah.
Don't give a shit if it was that time of the month.
Yeah.
But your female friends, they get that, right?
Yeah.
And so that was really important, I think. So there was that, and then like, you know, girls have issues.
Yeah, but it's like, all right, us as men, we don't know. do you think is it rude for a man not to ask? But how can a man? Because I know what it is. Where it's kind of like, oh, you're on your period. Oh, so I'm going to write off everything you say as just emotional. So I want to be careful not to do that.
Yeah.
So then, what is the way to kind of say, hey, should I be more patient? You know what I mean? Because if I know, I'll be more patient. You know? So, but the nature of the questions.
Oh my gosh,
an insult.
but there's even such a stigma of being like, I've got my period. No one wants to talk about that.
Because then,
then most guys go, oh, she's gonna be a bitch. Oh, you know, I've been in a site shed where they're like, oh, he must have been on the rag. It's like, bro, are you serious? Like, if a guy was in the shits, then the first thing the first thing that people do is like use a female circumstance to like degrade another position. And you sit there and you're just like,
such a pussy.
Oh, mate. I'm like, he wouldn't handle his period. Thank you very much. Oh my God. But I feel like, I think there's it's a massive thing too, where women, I feel like, are also ashamed to talk about it. But I think when you are in particularly a weight-based sport where you have to weigh in and there's legitimately nothing you can do about certain like fluid retention or whatever, and you're going through these moments, you kind of end up having to just be like, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, you know, when I would have these conversations with my coach, I was just like, the relationship with him was already at a different sort of level anyway. But, you know, I'd have these conversations and be like, look, my fight is booked in for this week, but I also already know that I'm going to be like potentially 2 or 3 kilos heavier. Like, what are our strategies to deal with this?
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, how am I going to manage that?
Yeah. I didn't even consider this. This is insane.
But the strategy was, Georgia, you're just going to have to sit in the sauna for another 2 hours, and
Well,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
But that was like, you know, there were so many, I guess that's the battle you face of being a woman in a combat sport.
Yeah. That's
you just have to deal with it.
That's insightful. Yeah, like you can't. Some things are just grounded in our physiology.
Can't do anything.
Yeah, well.
I'm so glad that we got to talk about periods.
Yeah, I mean, you get everything here at Not Your Thoughts. We cover all fucking bases, as we should. And that's honestly what I was excited about. Is I wonder how many women can relate, and I'm sure many.
Has to.
And I think it's great to be able to talk about it. Yeah. I did want to ask you something on that before we moved on. Did you have any kind of, not closing thoughts on that topic, but was there anything else worth adding while I try to remember what I was gonna put onto that? I guess. Now we can hear the tunes going.
I know. I love that.
No, well, commendable.
Do you edit that
out? No, I want it to be heard.
You want it to be heard?
I want it to be heard
because
for us it's a vibe. So
I know, I'm like bopping.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also trying to remember what I'm thinking about.
Exactly. Nah, it's a win. It's a win. But no, that's honestly well said. I think, more power to you.
Thanks.
On that. How did that? So what was the? I guess a good way to conclude that would be, how did that career end?
Oh yeah, well, it's a real doozy.
I nailed that narrative-wise.
That was a real the reason why. Yeah, look, I think this is something about boxing that it breaks my heart. It really does, because I think we box because it is a combat sport. You are going to get hit. You are going to get hurt, and I think the tragedy is in the thinking of immortality, that you are untouchable. Yeah. Because you are in peak physical condition. Yeah. You know, like.
And you've worked for it.
And you've earned it.
You've earned it. Yeah.
I put in the time. I had 6-pack abs. Ooh, I was so lean and athletic and fit and strong and determined. And was getting the fights. I was finally getting the fights. I'm 75 kilo now. Like, I'm not a small gal. But when I was fighting at 60. So I was like lean.
Yeah.
But that opened the door because it was also an Olympic weight.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the girls, bless, we, as an entertainment value, like we had like maybe 3 weights in the Olympics. Now, like for those of you playing at home, female boxing wasn't a sport until 2012.
Oh.
So I started in 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
I remember eating a tuna salad at
what
my
an
desk.
OG. Wow.
I know.
Mad.
Watching the first rounds of female boxing at London. And it was, they used to have 52, 60 and 75 kilos as the weight categories, right? And I used to walk around at about 69, 70. So it wasn't really a class at that point.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they had the weight classes like, as your general, but there wasn't really a pathway unless you fit into one of those. Like I remember,
kind of thing.
yeah, you had to like either go up or go down if that was your case. And I remember like, I'm deviating, but I'm going to tell you this story.
No,
I remember getting to like a state title, and it was a Commonwealth Games year, so it was still like 52, 60 or 75, and I was like fighting at 69, and I remember like fighting at like I did a fight earlier at 69 kilos, and it was fine. I just walked in, I just got on the scales, and it was fine, whatever. And then my coach had said to me, he's like, "Oh well, do you want to try for 75? Because you're not going to get down to 60.
From 69.
From 69.
Yeah.
He's like, do you want to try for 75? Oh, I ate souvlaki and I just like
Living your
ate.
best
And
life.
I was just like, I was so bloated and just feeling sick on the day because I'd eaten so much the night before, just trying to get my weight up.
A lot of butter on that bread.
100%, that raisin toast,
Now you started scooping the butter.
Because like, you strip down to your jocks and you stand on the scales and like, that in itself was just like something else because all the men wouldn't look, but you'd have to still be like in your undies. Like it was just really
Everyone's
weird.
Like,
what do we do? Where do you look?
Am I allowed to?
Oh my gosh. And the trick was when you don't make weight and you take everything off, then everyone's like clearing out, like, but it was like, trying to weigh up to get into these categories. So, like, I can't remember where I was going with this, but like it was such a like, you live and breathe by it and you go and you do the path and you try to get your fights and whatever. And then towards the very end, I managed to get down to 60. So like my coach was my partner at the time.
Yeah.
And we were going through this like really shit awkwardness and it was a horrible like point in our relationship. And we sort of broke up in a way and I don't really know what was going on. But I like dropped 8 kilos in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was hectic. It was a lot. But it just it was really coincidence that it like coincided with the next round of like
where
title
you needed
fights.
to be, yeah.
And so like, I got to weigh in at 60 and like it was a really like tick made it.
Yeah.
But it was at that moment that I was like, okay, cool. I'm now my weight's at 60. I'm getting like fights with girls that are like going to world championships or have had Olympic time or have like fought at Commonwealth Games. And I was like getting the fights.
Yeah.
And so like I was the most miserable but then the most happiest in my boxing career that I'd ever been.
Yeah,
like it was a real juxtaposition between what was going on there. And then in my very last, like, I guess it was my last fights, it was a world selection trials. We were fighting in Perth and it was like a knockout round. So you do like, you might have, depending on how many like fighters there are in your category, you might have 4 fights in 4 days or 3 fights in 3 days or something like that.
Yeah. Fuck, that's pretty intense.
It was a lot. Yeah. So, I had fighting at 60, it was quite a like big division because the girls that were fighting at like 64 or 69 were coming down to 60. The ones that were like, maybe at 58, 54 might go up or down depending.
Everyone's just trying to match.
So you were just trying to find a spot in your weight category. So we had a lot and I had like 4 fights in 4 days in Perth. And I remember like before my last fight, I was like working on the pads and I just had this most overwhelming like sharp pain in my head, which sounds really bizarre because like that you're not you're on the pads. You're just punching. That's not like,
Yeah.
Hitting you in the head.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Sharp pain.
A really sharp pain in my head.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was just like, I just played it off, whatever, had my last fight, finished, left Perth, came back to Melbourne, and then came back to Melbourne and there were about a week had gone by because this is like July-ish. And we got a phone call and it was like, there's going to be a Super 8 tournament. And like the Super 8 Golden Gloves like was a thing, they used to do round robins. Like it's an American thing as well. Like, and they were doing it here and, it was going to be in Adelaide. And one of the coaches from Western Australia called and rang my coach and was like, we're putting a team together for the Super 8, but we're missing a girl for 64 kilos. Would Georgia want to do it? And so like my coach rang me and he was like, do you want to do it? Yes or no? I was like, yeah, shit, yeah. Like it'd been
I'm here. Yeah,
I'm here. I'm like fight ready.
Yeah.
State titles were at the end of August.
Okay.
So I'd like come off the back of the selection trials in end of July, and this Super 8 tournament sort of like just sat in the middle of August. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, more rounds in the bank, more fights,
comp reps,
comp prep,
yeah,
ready, fight ready.
Yeah, exactly right.
And this tournament, like, no shade, but it was honestly the most cowboyish tournament where, like, I was fighting at 64 kilos, but because I'd been coming off the back of another comp, I was light on. I was 60, 62 at best, 61. And so some of the girls were like a bit heavier and they were coming down and they
Is that an advantage? Sorry, is it better going up or going down?
You want to be going down
because
you're heavier. You're a bigger girl.
So you feel lighter coming down.
Yeah, like so you're the heavier person in the weight division.
But you're the same weight.
You're the same weight, but pound for pound, a lot of that is just water weight.
Yeah. Okay.
So I kind of feel like I had come from fighting at 69, going down to 60, and the girls' punches were like pitter patter.
Interesting.
I was like, gosh, when you get hit by a 75-kilo girl, you feel that.
Yeah, you're the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So like I want to say like my tolerance at that point, but then you fight at 60 kilos for a while, and you sort of you feel like you're there, and I guess maybe more depleted because you're lighter.
Yeah.
I don't know,
less
whatever.
energy. Yeah.
Like all of that plays a part, I suppose. But I went to this tournament and, like I'd had 3 fights in 3 days. And one of them was like the last one. It was just a straight up brawl. This girl and I had been like, we were due to match for ages. And we just never like somehow found the time, or she was in a higher weight category or I was in a higher weight category, and it was just like this unspoken rivalry. And like we used to spar occasionally, but our sparring sessions were fights. Like they were just on. It was so on.
You're
anyway,
both battling your demons.
I know, and it's funny because like my ex was my coach, but her dad was her coach, and so it was just like the battle of the coaches, and it was just there was so much tension in this one fight. And I remember, like it's funny, like if you've ever been in a combat sport, I suppose, and you've had a fight, you'll have moments where you won't remember the whole thing because it feels like it goes so fast and it's done and you don't remember it. But I just remember like there was a moment during this last fight where I looked over into her corner and I saw her dad, and he was screaming. He was screaming. He was like, and he was like waving his hands, and he was like on the ring. He was like honestly yelling shit like, fucking hit her. And it was, I remember just like watching, like looking at him and this being in my mind going, you're an animal. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then it was over. And I got out of the ring and I didn't win and that was fine. It was an absolute battle. And, people came up to me afterwards and they were like, we love watching you fight. You're an absolute entertainer. You go for it. Yeah. Like that was sick, right? And then 20 minutes later, I was like packing up my bag and I just like that sharp pain that I had from like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
became this all-out global whole head, just like compressive feeling all of a sudden. It was just, and I couldn't see.
I hate this. Ugh.
It was just, my vision was blurred. I couldn't stand up and I was just sitting there. And it was in Adelaide. I had to fly back to Melbourne.
Oh, true. The pressure, is that okay?
Who knows?
Yeah,
who
true.
knows?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, I'm
Yes,
here to
knock
tell
on anything we
here
can.
to tell the story,
Yeah,
right? But
exactly.
and I said to my coach, I'm like, fuck, I'm not all right. I've got like a real headache. And he was just like, all right, we'll go and see the doctor. And I was like, immediately, no, do not want to go and see the doctor. And he's like, why not? And I'm like, because if I don't get my fit to box, then state titles next week is off. And he's like, all right, I'll just ask for some.
Oh. Yes.
10 minutes.
I know. I was going to posture to that. Yeah. I know. I didn't want to rush, but time has flown.
We have flown.
That was pretty. I know my time. This guy, I'm gonna give him
I
a
was
word.
in the middle of the fucking story.
I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind at the crescendo as well. Sorry, do go on. But yes, we are running out of time. I could go on forever. There's so many more questions.
We're not even close.
No, we are.
Oh
but
my God.
I would tell him more.
Anyway, so turns out I had I had been given a Panadol and I flew back to Melbourne and my Jetstar flight was like absolutely delayed. Like I was sat in the airport for like 3 hours. And I got back to Melbourne and went to bed, and the next day, I don't even know how I woke up, to be honest with you. But I woke up and I was like, I need to go to the hospital. And I went to the hospital and I had a what's called a subdural hematoma, which is essentially a brain bleed.
Oh, no. Yes.
And there was enough blood in my brain that it was forcing my brain over to the left-hand side.
You're kidding me.
And I was in there and the surgeons basically, like I'd been in there passing every single concussion test known. And because I was also like so assertive, I was like, this is this and you are that and that. And I was just like rattling it off. And they're like, you're not behaving like you have a concussion.
Oh, you're kidding. Yeah.
So go home. And then sure enough, they did my brain scan and they came back and they're like, we need to operate on you immediately.
It's a week ago.
And I was just like, what do you mean? They're like prep you for theatre now. And so then I had to call my mum and tell her that I was like going to have brain surgery. And then that was the end.
And just as done with our friend over here, an abrupt ending to the career.
Ending.
Yeah.
That end.
At least that was fitting though. But that I want to say it sucks, but maybe that was what you needed
It was out that I needed for so many aspects of my life at that moment.
Yeah, and I feel like you benefited from the ability to do it, and that skill you can apply everywhere with that. But well, thank you for sharing that.
Oh man,
honestly, I wish we could keep talking. I'm like, we are running out of time.
Too late.
You know, surprisingly, this isn't my this isn't just a random studio that I own. But yeah, Georgia, honestly, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could talk more.
Yeah, I'd be down for another. Honestly, really, because we do have more to talk about. But yeah, I guess thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
And yeah, I feel you really do have a powerful and positive message. And as I said at the start, I'll say it again. You're living it, and you genuinely are this embodiment of, I guess, someone living in totality, a full being. And I think that comes with everything. And, you know, I'm aspiring for that. You're aspiring for that. 100%. And I think that's why we can relate so well as to like,
oh my gosh,
why it's such an important conversation.
Yeah. It was great connecting with you, Billy. Thank you.
Peace out. I gotta go. See ya.